All right, what's up guys? Welcome to the Boox training video. This is going to cover the main functionality of the tool, basically how to download your payment transactions, import them into the system, build out your P&L, and then just a few additional features. What we're going to assume right now is that we've already set up the tool and authorized it. If you aren't at that point right now, go back and watch the previous video to get set up there. But the settings page is pretty simple. You've got your FBAExcel.io login, email, password, plug those in. That'll help you get authorized. As far as the settings, there's really only three kind of core settings we have to get started. You've got the accounting method that you want to use. So we're going to, by default, use the accrual method. So first off, disclaimer, I am not a CPA or tax professional. I have kind of gotten into the weeds on the numbers and understand from Amazon financials kind of where different things come from. So this tool is going to give you a lot more transparency than most of them out there, and you'll be able to convey different things to your accountant if need be. But the tool does use the payment transactions report and basically slice and dices that up just to give you a very detailed breakdown of where all your costs and associated fees and whatnot are coming from. So from that standpoint, payment transaction report is by far the most detailed and accurate financial piece of information that you have in your Amazon account, and for that I know for a fact. So let's go ahead and get started. Accrual, you're going to just kind of keep that by default. It's going to give us a really good month by month breakdown of the profitability of our business, which is really what we need to be looking at and evaluating. The tax percentage, this is just kind of a reference number here. I'd like to keep it at 25 to 40%, some depending on your income tax, self-employment tax. The import transaction max number, so this is a little bit confusing. So all this means is we're going to be importing our transactions from our payment transaction report. It's what's called the date range report. And that file can be huge. I mean, it can be 50,000 to 100,000 rows. So Google Sheets can only handle so much at one time. So we're actually bulk kind of importing those transactions in groups. In this case, by default, at 10,000 rows per kind of run. So you can do subsequent runs to get all your data in there. But that's just kind of a default setting that I recommend. And you may need to actually reduce that number, say down to like 5,000 at a time, depending on your internet connection or your computer speed. So just kind of keep that in mind that that's there. Next, you've got expense categories. So these pertain to your opex expenses, and these are going to be handled in the kind of negative tab down here where we're going to allocate any these can be business, administrative, legal, any type of operational expenses that you need to track in your business that you want to kind of employ into the P&L so you can see everything all in one place. This is a good way to do that. You just assign the categories or the accounts, however you want to classify them as, in this sheet here, and then we're actually going to enable those on the P&L, and then I'll show you how to actually track those on the manual expense tab as well. And in combination with that, you can actually have like a Google Drive account where maybe you're out and about and say travel is one of your expenses, and you go and get gas for a business thing that you're doing. You can actually snap a picture of that receipt, upload it right from your phone to a Google Drive account, and when you have those historical receipts along with a tool like this, you've kind of got an all-encompassing accounting system that is really nice for Amazon. So that was kind of the intent of the tool from the get-go. The My SKUs section, this is actually going to get automatically built out after we import our transactions, and then we're going to allocate our cost of goods after that. So it's kind of a three-step process here after we go and get our payment transaction report, import those, get our SKUs, allocate the cost of goods, then we're going to refresh our cost of goods, and then everything's going to be kind of built out from there. So first step is after you authorize your copy, go up and hit the Boox accounting menu. You're just going to want to already be logged into Seller Central. Hit download transactions. This is going to actually hop you automatically over to your payment transaction date range report section. If you get a little notification up here in the web URL bar, you may have a pop-up blocker on. Just make sure you don't have that on, and it should come up to this page. If it doesn't for some reason come up to this page and you can't figure it out, you can always go up to let's see, reports, payments. That'll drop you into this section here. Then you just want to select the date range report from the tabbed header there. And then after that, all you're going to do is click generate report, and we're actually going to pick transaction. A little later in this video, I'll show you how to pick summary and just kind of do a double check across your P&L. But for now, let's get transactions, because we're actually going to see every transaction and then build those into a profit and loss statement that's very detailed and broken out. And then from there, if you have this option to select all, go ahead and select all. If not, select standard orders. That's just going to give you a few more transactions if you do have the all option. All right, and then from there, you're actually going to want to create a custom range, date range here. So say we're starting in, let's grab the 2021 data. We'll start from January 1st. And then you can set this to, I believe 365 days is the max. Now you can't grab the current day. So if today is the 21st and I'm doing 2022, for example, I couldn't grab 21st, but I could grab to the 20th. So you gotta grab it from whatever date you want to start with, and then 2 current day minus 1. That's the best you can do. And then as you update this kind of on an ongoing basis, you'll just overlap some of the dates that you've already imported. And then when you import them into the tool, it's automatically going to know kind of where to pick up and drop the transactions in from there. So kind of keep that in mind. But I'm going to just do all of 2021. So my date range is going to end on the 31st. And I'm going to hit generate. All right, so because I did the whole year, this is actually going to take a little while, and I've already got some demo files that are downloaded. So essentially all you're going to do is just keep hitting refresh till this yellow download button comes up, click download, save it to either your desktop or Google Drive folder. And then from there, you're going to need to put it in a specific place in your Google Drive account. All right, so I've got my CSV file that I downloaded from my date range report in here. You can see it's from January 1st all the way to December 31st. And it's within my root Google Drive folder within the FBAExcel tools, Boox, and then the the Boox new subfolder. That's where you're going to want to drop this file in. All right, and then once you have that file, you're just going to go back to Boox, and you can go back up to the menu here, and what it's basically going to do when we hit this import transactions button, it's going to pull in from that file that we've saved 10,000 rows, and it's going to put it in this transactions tab. That's essentially all it's going to do. So I'm just going to show you an example real quick and click import transactions. You'll see it's going to automatically pull the data in, and it's just saying you need to have that file in that new folder. Do you want to continue? Yes. As soon as you hit yes, you should start to see it kind of load and do some things. I have the formula bar enabled, so you should see like a green bar on occasion kind of run up here in the upper right corner if things are going right. Before it does that, though, it is going to ask you the market. So the current version of Boox only supports USA and Canada. If you do, if you are wanting to use this in a European country, definitely reach out to me and we can work together to make that happen. It's not overly difficult. I just don't sell in those markets, so I haven't had the opportunity to kind of set that up yet. But if you sell in US or Canada, you'll be able to use this pretty easily. Now, it will only support one at a time right now. We do have some plans to kind of integrate multiple markets into one P&L, but you can just as easily set up multiple multiple copies for multiple P&Ls. For now, I'm just going to do the US account, hit OK. All right, you can see this green bar kind of starting to load. You should see that, and it's going to take a couple minutes to kind of add in the 10,000 rows, and then it also runs some calculations in the background to kind of get all the data organized. All right, so after that loads, you will see some SKUs pop up under the My SKU section here, and again, that's just going to be automatically generated from the transactions that were just imported. If we go over to the transaction sheet now, you will see a bunch of rows of data that have been added, and this is essentially the data from that payment transaction date range report. And if we go down to the bottom of this, you'll see that exactly 10,000 rows have been imported. You can see we're at 10,001. That's because we've got the header row. And then if we go back to the report folder that we started with, and you'll see March 26th now. If we go down to March 26th, you'll see that basically what it's going to do is, because we haven't imported all of them originally that were in that master year-long file, it's going to start now at March 26th, then import the next chunk of data when we go back up to the menu and import the next batch. So I'm going to go do that now, and after, I'm going to go ahead and get all of them in here, and then I'll show you what to do here with the SKUs, but that's kind of the first step. All right, so I've got all of the 2021 transactions in here. You can see my SKU list that it's automatically built out for me. What I'm going to want to do now is just copy this list. So I'm going to hit Control Shift down on the keyboard and hit Control C as in cat to copy. And if you don't see this COGS tab here at the bottom, just go up to the accounting menu and go to COGS settings, add SKUs and COGS, and it's going to take you over to the COGS screen. What you're going to want to do is under the SKU column here, hit Control Shift V, and that's just going to paste the values. And you'll see when you do that, you'll have yellow columns here kind of show up. All we're going to do is assign our production costs and our shipping costs for these SKUs that get the product to Amazon. So that's from your supplier, the cost per unit, and the cost per shipping per unit. You could add those together if you want and just put it in the shipping cost as kind of a landed total, or break them out, and then that'll split it out on the P&L. You can also add the ASIN if you want. You'll get a little image that pops up here, but I'm not going to worry about it in this training video. But let's assume, just for the sake of this, that all my product costs are $3. Yours will obviously be different, and we've got a shipping cost of, let's say, 50 cents per unit. So I am going to just drag that all the way down. And you'll want to do your FBA items and FBM if you have obviously different, different SKUs for the different sales methods if you do FBM. And again, those will automatically be populated there on the settings tab, so you don't really have to worry about it. But after you have allocated those costs, you're going to go back up to the Books accounting menu, and you're just going to sync new COGS, and that's just going to assign these values at the transaction level so you can use the accrual method. All right, and then once the profit and loss statement updates, you'll be able to just scroll down through it and evaluate all of the monthly data. And you can see what it's basically done. It's basically taken all of our transactions and allocated them to specific line items depending on if they're sales and revenue related, Amazon cost related. You've got your gross profit, gross margin. Here's your Amazon ads. It's got some pretty nifty little color kind of graphs just to at a glance be able to tell you what are your better months, and if you've got anything that's just jumping out at you that compared to previous months maybe off, that you can really investigate further. One nice thing too is we've added notes for all the different line items so you can clearly get an explanation of what the value represents. The percentages here are all a percentage of the total revenue. So you'll be able to get an idea, for example, of like what are your cost of Amazon services in relation to your total revenue. They'd be 35%, cost of goods 19%, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to go through each line item. That would take forever. All right, but one thing I do want to show you, if you go back to your date range report, and in this time, instead of grabbing the transaction report, we grab the summary report. So click summary. We're going to do all, and then for month, I'm going to do February 2021. Right there, and just hit generate. So I've already got one downloaded, but that's how you would download the summary report. And this is just to do kind of a double check to make sure kind of no transactions are missing and everything just from a gut feel is looking good. So basically what we can do now is take these upper level numbers, so 57045, and if you come down here to total revenue, you'll see that that matches that exactly. You'll notice that a lot of these numbers here in this income section are included in here, and if they're not included, it means they're broken down further. So you can just kind of get an idea, like that 971 for your inventory credit. You can see how it's split out into more detailed transactions, and that's just to give you more insight in your P&L. Is why we did it that way. For your costs, you'll see here $25,892.51. So to get that, you actually need to grab your total cost of Amazon services and add in your advertised Amazon PPC. So I'm just going to hit the control key and highlight both of those values, and you'll see $25,892.51, which matches exactly to that number. Again, there's quite a few more detailed breakouts of some of the expenses there, and that's just so you can again get more insights. Now, the transfers, we also do document that in the P&L here, and I'll show you here in a second where that's at. Sales tax as well. If I scroll all the way down to this more info section, you'll see sales tax collected $3,862, which matches this 3,862. I know that's kind of hard to see, but that value right there. And then the transfers, which is the Amazon disbursements into your bank account. Basically what you need to do to get those to show up is I'll scroll up and I'm going to maximize this actually. And you'll see some additional slicers, they're called, up here at the top in black. You're going to want to click on the all here and then just make sure you only have 1 year selected. And for some reason by default it's selected, but you have to hit clear and then select the year you want to see, hit OK. And this is just going to update one of the tables. So then we can actually scroll down here and you'll see. So once those show up, you can see kind of the date ranges that the periods were for and then the amounts that were dispersed into the account. The other thing it's going to do, it's going to calculate, you got to remember these disbursements are done kind of like typically on the 15th or random days throughout the month, where this P&L is organized by month. So the first to the end of the month and so on and so forth. So we also grab in this monthly theoretical disbursement a disbursement calculated amount if that transfer was done on the first of each month. So if we take the difference of that, that gives us the amounts that would have happened for the cash transfer on the days. You can see there's like 5 or 6 days here in 2020, and then you may have 5 or 6 here in 2022. So you can get a difference and just get an idea of how much more Amazon would have sent in the previous or post year. But anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell what it's doing. It's just breaking down your P&L into very detailed and precise numbers so you can from month to month see how you're standing. One really nice feature as well is you can select by SKU and then see how the P&L reels down for each SKU. And you'll really get a good idea of profitability, ROI, things like that. So I'm going to just clear out and I'm going to pick one of these. Let's get this one, just hit OK. All right, and you can see it just updated. So it's giving us the number of units we've sold. You can see we didn't sell any FBM units. Here's the FBA sales. If we go down to the bottom, we can see our total profit of about 57 grand, and that's before advertising. So the thing, if you do the SKU split out, is it's actually not going to allocate your PPC per SKU. So there is no PPC shown when you do a SKU by SKU allocation. We'd have to pull in some additional reports to see that, but we've got another tool, metrics, that allows you to do that very clearly. This is more geared towards just seeing the profitability of kind of your account, and then it does have some additional features where you can dive in a little bit more detailed. But I do want to touch on a few other features. So I'm going to enable actually all of the SKUs again just to get all the data back. I'm going to hit select all, hit OK. All right, one other cool thing is you'll get very clear transparency where your 1099K data comes from that Amazon reports at the end of the year. So you can use these numbers here to correlate against that document, and then anything that has this asterisk is what essentially goes into that calculation, so you can get an idea there. All right, and one other cool thing is, let's say, for example, this shipping credits FBA, we want to see a little more information on that. What we can do is hover over that and select that cell, then go up to Books Accounting and hit Get Transaction Details. And what that's going to do, it's going to search a special table that's underneath the profit and loss statement. We're just going to hit yes. And if it finds that value, which more times out of not it will, like it did there, what you can do is right click on it. All right, and then hit show details once it loads. All right, and then after that sheet loads, you'll see it just creates a separate tab down here. And what it's basically giving you is a breakout row by row of what goes into that summed number that is shown up on the P&L. So you can just scroll down through it and just really see where each transaction kind of gets reeled up and allocated. And then the last thing we need to talk about is how to allocate the opex expenses, which if we go down here, you can see I've got some selected here. And the way it works is you're basically going to assign them on the settings tab, and then you're going to pick the ones that you want to actually include from that list on the P&L here. And there's some hidden rows too if you want to add some additional ones, but for now, let's just say that these are kind of our default ones. And again, we've created that list to choose from based on this list right here. So you can just as easily, if you want to change these names to different ones, I'd recommend starting there. And then this little check mark basically just means that it's being used on the profit and loss statement as kind of a placeholder. So after you've done that, then what you can do is go over here to the opex expense little tab down here, the red one. And all you're going to do is plug in the date. So let's say we want to allocate an expense for the 21st of January. So we plug in 1/21/21. And then this category list is going to again come from our settings tab. And let's just say that we bought some, I don't know, paper or something for our printer. So printer paper, and you're going to use a negative sign. So let's say it was, I don't know, $12.99. All right, so that's how you can kind of track your expenses manually. And then when we go back over to our profit and loss statement and go down to the opex expenses, you'll see under January. And basically you're just going to add manual operational expenses in that fashion until you kind of have everything all accounted for. One other thing you're going to want to do is in this cell right here, make sure you have the correct year. And that'll just make sure off of the manual expense tab that you've got the correct set of opex expenses in there. So after that though, you've pretty much got everything. The only other thing is if you do want to use the cash method, you need to add your what'll typically be like Alibaba transactions when you're paying for a bulk quantity of inventory, and you'll just allocate that to the COGS payments, the very first one here, that account. And you'll enter that as just a big lump sum. So like if you pay $4,000 to your supplier for 3,000 units, let's say, you'd plug in -4,000, allocate it to the COGS payments, and then all you would do is in the settings tab here, you would change your accounting method to from accrual to cash. And then the only difference then is on your profit and loss statement when we hop over here. All right, and then we scroll up to the cost of goods section. Instead of kind of a very even distribution of the cost of goods being allocated, your cash expenditures are going to get summed up in the month that you paid for them. So you'll get a lot of more of a roller coaster effect month to month, which isn't very useful in actually assessing kind of the profitability of your business, but it can be helpful if you're doing your taxes in the cash method. So all right, guys, so hopefully that gives you a pretty general overview of Boox. Well, there will be some additional videos that we're going to be adding to go into some more detail. But for now, that is pretty much a good summary from kind of start to finish of how to get things set up and get your initial transactions imported, and then start to kind of assess the profitability of your Amazon business. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks.